Episode 15. Help those in need with compassion and wisdom. Aum Namapegavaith Vasudevya. Imagine this. A powerful storm strikes a small coastal town. The winds disappear by morning. The rain finally stops. People slowly step outside to inspect the damage. One businessman walks through the streets calculating losses. A shopkeeper counts broken windows. Insurance companies begin assessing claims. News reporters capture dramatic images. But an elderly woman notices something everyone else has overlooked. A frightened little child, standing alone, crying silently. She doesn't ask whose child it is. She doesn't ask whether the family is wealthy or poor. She simply walks over, wraps the child in her shawl, and says, "You are not alone." Years later, that child would remember almost nothing about the storm. But they would remember one thing forever. Someone cared. History quietly reminds us that people rarely remember how successful we were. They remember how we made them feel when they needed someone the most. If you want to leave behind a legacy that outlives wealth, titles, and achievements, stay with me until the very end. Because today's principle has the power to transform not only the lives of others, but your own. Many people believe greatness is measured by how much they accumulate. Wisdom teaches something different. Greatness is measured by how much we contribute. Imagine two rivers. One flows only into itself. The other nourishes villages, fields, forests, and countless lives along its journey. Which river creates the greater impact? The answer is obvious. Life becomes meaningful, not when everything flows toward us, but when something meaningful flows through us. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that selfless action performed without expectation purifies the heart. Service is not merely something we do. It is someone we become. Helping another human being is not an interruption to our purpose. Sometimes, it is our purpose. Mother Teresa once said, "Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Think about those words. Most people wait for extraordinary opportunities to serve. Life usually offers ordinary ones. A smile, a listening ear, encouragement, a meal, a kind word, guidance. Sometimes the smallest act changes the biggest story. Imagine walking through a forest after a wildfire. Everything appears destroyed. Then, you notice one tiny green shoot pushing through the ashes. Hope often begins exactly like that. One act of compassion. One person refusing to walk away. One decision to help. Let me tell you a story. A young executive rushed into a railway station one evening. His phone kept ringing. He had an important presentation the next morning. As he hurried toward the platform, he noticed an elderly man struggling to lift a heavy suitcase up the stairs. For a brief moment, he hesitated. If I stop, I might miss my train. Then something inside him whispered, "One day, you may be the one needing help." He picked up the suitcase, walked slowly beside the old man, helped him safely reach the platform. As the train doors closed, the elderly man smiled and quietly said, "My son passed away 3 years ago. Today, for a few minutes, it felt like he was walking beside me again." The executive boarded the train in silence. He realized something profound. He thought he had carried a suitcase. In reality, he had lifted a lonely heart. If today's message reminds you that kindness still has the power to change lives, pause for a moment and write one word in the comments. Compassion. Because compassion is love expressed through action. Now here's something fascinating. Psychologists have found that acts of generosity often benefit both the giver and the receiver. Helping others can strengthen connection, increase positive emotions, and reinforce a sense of purpose. Perhaps that is because human beings were never designed to live only for themselves. Imagine lighting one candle, then using it to light another. Has the first candle lost anything? No. The room simply becomes brighter. Kindness works the same way. It multiplies, never decreases. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in the lives of others." Whether those are his exact words or not, the principle remains timeless. Every act of goodness creates ripples we may never fully see. In today's boardrooms, the most admired leaders understand that leadership is not about being served. It is about serving. They mentor young professionals, develop future leaders, create opportunities, remove obstacles. Because real leadership asks one question: whose life becomes better because I was here? Chanakya advised rulers that the prosperity of a kingdom depended upon how it treated its weakest citizens. Compassion without wisdom creates dependence. Wisdom without compassion creates indifference. Great leaders practice both. They help, but they also empower. They feed the hungry and teach them how to grow food. They solve today's problem while preparing people for tomorrow. But here's where everything changes. Imagine a gardener planting a young sapling. For the first few months, he waters it regularly. He protects it from strong winds. He places a small support beside it. But one day, he removes that support. Not because he has stopped caring, but because he wants the tree to grow strong enough to stand on its own. That is the difference between helping and creating dependence. True compassion does not merely rescue people from today's difficulty. It prepares them for tomorrow's responsibility. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that the highest form of service is action performed with wisdom, humility, and without attachment to recognition. Think about that. Many people help because they want appreciation. Wise people help because it is the right thing to do. Service performed for applause ends when applause disappears. Service performed from love continues, even in silence. If today's message reminds you that true kindness empowers rather than controls, write one word in the comments. Service. Because the greatest lives are measured not by what they collected, but by what they contributed. There is another lesson from nature. Have you ever watched the sun rise? Every morning, it shines upon everyone. The rich, the poor, the powerful, the forgotten. It never asks, who deserves my light today? It simply gives, without expectation, without pride, without discrimination. Imagine if every one of us became a little more like the sun, offering encouragement where there is fear, offering hope where there is despair, offering knowledge where there is confusion, offering compassion where there is loneliness. The world would quietly begin changing, one heart at a time. There is another misunderstanding about helping others. Many believe compassion always requires money. It doesn't. Sometimes, the greatest gift is your time. Sometimes it is your attention. Sometimes it is your experience. Sometimes it is introducing someone to the right opportunity. Sometimes it is believing in someone before they believe in themselves. Every one of us has something valuable to give. Peter Drucker often reminded leaders that the purpose of leadership is to make strengths productive. The same principle applies to compassion. Don't merely solve problems. Help people discover their strengths. Help them develop confidence. Help them become independent. Because the highest form of charity is not creating lifelong dependence. It is creating lifelong capability. Imagine a teacher. She could simply give students every answer during an examination. They would pass that day. But would they succeed in life? Now imagine another teacher. She patiently teaches them how to think, how to solve problems, how to learn. Years later, those students succeed on their own. One teacher created temporary success. The other created lasting transformation. That is compassionate wisdom. In today's boardrooms, the most respected leaders don't simply manage performance. They coach people. They mentor them. They identify hidden potential. They celebrate growth. Their greatest achievement isn't building profitable companies. It is building capable human beings. That is leadership at its highest level. Chanakya advised that rulers should protect the vulnerable while also creating systems that allowed people to prosper through their own efforts. Compassion and responsibility must always walk together. History confirms this. The individuals remembered for generations are rarely those who accumulated the most wealth. They are the ones who used their resources, their knowledge, their influence, and their lives to uplift others. There is another question worth asking. Who needs your compassion today? Perhaps an elderly parent longing for conversation, a child waiting for encouragement, a colleague quietly struggling under pressure, a friend fighting a battle they haven't spoken about, or perhaps the person needing compassion is you. Sometimes we carry guilt for years. Mistakes, failures, regrets. The divine offers forgiveness. Perhaps it is time we extend some of that compassion to ourselves, not to avoid responsibility, but to find the strength to begin again. Before you begin tomorrow, ask yourself one simple question. Whose burden can I lighten today? Without expecting anything in return. That one question, repeated every morning, can quietly transform not only another person's life, but your own. If today's episode reminded you that true greatness is found in serving others with both compassion and wisdom, subscribe and continue this journey with us. Every episode is designed to help us grow in character, leadership, and purpose. Share this episode with someone whose kindness has made a difference in your life, because gratitude has the power to inspire even more goodness. Together, let us become better individuals, build stronger families, create a better society, and leave behind a better world for future generations. Remember, help with humility, give with wisdom, serve without seeking recognition, encourage without expecting reward, empower rather than create dependence. Because the hands that lift another human being are never empty. They become stronger, kinder, and closer to the divine. May we replace indifference with compassion, replace selfishness with service, replace temporary charity with lasting empowerment, replace judgment with understanding. May every act of kindness become an offering to the divine, every life we touch become a little brighter, and every day bring us one step closer to fulfilling our dharma by serving humanity with wisdom, humility, and love. Aum Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.